Well, it's great to see you all. Thank you all for coming. What a wonderful space to be surrounded by words, and such words. It's great. I think a physicist of mine, I don't understand physics, but a friend of mine who's a physicist says everything exists by comparison. So I nodded gnomically and agreed with him. But I think yesterday our situation was entirely different. We were invited to the House of Lords to a reception. Barhan al-Chalabi, the owner of the magazine, and a few friends of ours, the London Magazine, were invited to the House of Lords, and we went along. We organised a crack team of artists, writers, and thinkers, and we went along, and we queued in the sun. And when we finally got into the House of Lords, we looked like the cast of Cool Hand Luke, you know. We arrived. And it was insurance. That was the subject of the talk, insurance. That was the first downer. The second downer was that it was dry. There were no drinks. There was tea, cakes, and water. Now, you can't give writers, artists, and critics tea. I remember my grandfather, I made him gazpacho when I came back from Spain. He was an old Irishman. He said, "You can't give Irish people cold soup." It was the same, you know. It was nearly anarchy, you know. I mean, 20-minute speech on insurance without a glass in your hand. You know? I mean, I would have taken an policy out if he'd have put some champagne in it. Anyway, I'm glad to see this is not the case. Thank you. This wonderful gallery here and Jamil's work. I'd like to thank Barhan, as always, for keeping with us and indulging us so much in all our wishes with the magazine, but also to Matthew, the reviews editor, and then the other members of the team that seems to be growing and growing. Muna, who kind of holds the conscience of the magazine very much, or at least marketing and financially. We got Heather, who's producing the magazine, and Jessica, who now seems to be working non-stop also on marketing and publishing with our e-book aspect of the magazine. Wonderful. Jessica, I can't believe the amount of work you do. I breeze in and out the office, and you talk to me about the Conor Patrick's book that we're going to publish, and I nod at you and look and say wonderful, and just hope that it occurs. Finally, the Irish ambassador gave me some advice on Saturday night. He said, keep putting "finally" in your speeches because it gives people hope.
How many times? I repeat it, yeah.
So, I would say one of my first finallys is with a glass in your hand. You should remember that there's no such thing as a free glass. And Greg Gowrie usually says to us, or to the crowd, that we accrue, is that this is an invitation for you to take a subscription to the London Magazine. In fact, Jessica or someone in the office said today, "Do you think people just arrive for the free drink?" I said, "No!" So subscriptions, or at least buy a copy, and also look at this work as well. And perhaps if you've got the pockets, you can buy some. I think another finally is, before I hand over to Edward, is a stalwart of the magazine and a great friend of mine is Raith Almenazi, a Syrian, and he's written a poem, and of course we're surrounded by words, and I would love Raith to be able to read a poem that's coming up in the London Magazine, which is very pertinent because it is about Syria at the moment. And before we hand over to Edward, I'd like Raith to read this. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Stephen. I know we're supposed to be in a happy mood, and I'm afraid I might be spoiling that mood a little bit, but bear with me while I read these words. Syria, suffer the country. Suffer the curled up corpses of the tortured. Suffer the cluttered ranks of the bound and the beaten. Suffer the pleading eyes of those to be slain. Suffer the insanity of the bullet, the tank, the gunship, and the fire-breathing jet. Suffer the shredded streets and the destroyed dreams. Suffer the stretching legions of the bereft and tormented. Suffer the terror-stricken and the destitute, massed into heartless refuges. Suffer the geostrategist heads of abattoirs, seeking their pounds of flesh and their share of the carcass. Suffer the unpitying despot and the holy warrior. Suffer the theft and wreck of an eon's inheritance. Suffer the cowardly soul searchers and the mendacious hand-wringers. Suffer the glib wordiness of the actionless purveyors of sympathy. Yet, take heart, the country. Take heart from the millennia of priceless history. Take heart from the passing of countless invaders and tyrants. Take heart from a nation sewn from a galaxy of threads. Take heart from a people forged in the conquest of adversity. Take heart from a heritage of inclusion and embrace. Take heart from the majesty of Palmyra and the spirit of Zenobia. Take heart from ageless Aleppo and eternal Damascus. Take heart from those who gifted humankind the alphabet. Take heart from the builders of Canaan and the founders of Carthage. Take heart from the saga of St. Paul and the glory of the Umayyads. Take heart from the rise of the phoenix from its fabled soil.
Edward. Thank you very
Well,
much.
first of all, thank you for coming. My friend Jamil Naqsh came to this gallery through me. He is, by profession, a recluse. He never appears at his own exhibitions. So I have to speak for him. Jamil's is perhaps the best known artist in Pakistan. He has a personal museum. He's incredibly well known to anybody cultivated in his own country. He belongs to a generation of artists in the Indian subcontinent who found their way into modernism through illustrated books, illustrated magazines, that kind of thing. He most of all desires to be recognized as a universally valid artist, not simply as a product of his own country. And this exhibition, of course, is a great step towards the achievement of that ambition. However, one must also note that this exhibition is about Islam and about the importance of Islamic culture. The main theme here, in many of the pictures, is the 99 names of God. As you, those of you who are acquainted with Islam or Islamic yourselves, will know, the 99 names actually stretch to a much greater number, but there are several canonical lists. But the main idea is to spell out the qualities of God. God resides in a single word, Allah. That word, more than in any other culture, is the Godhead resides in the word. The 99 names simply spell out God's qualities, his attributes. But when this is transferred to a Western context, as it is here, it becomes the material for a series of extremely interesting and inventive abstract pictures. One of the things I think you have to remember about Arabic calligraphy, and I must say that I must make it clear here myself that I don't read Arabic or speak it, but one of the things I understand about it is that Arabic calligraphy both reveals and conceals. That is, particularly in the more archaic scripts such as Kufic, where the diacritical marks are very often omitted. The diacritical marks give the vowels. The spectator is asked to contemplate. That is, he is asked or she is asked to penetrate the meaning by looking at the image. That is what is happening here. And it must be said that if you compare this to purely Western abstraction, it has some parallels. Mark Rothko once said that the purpose of his abstractions was to make people weep without knowing why. That is, to give evidence of having had a spiritual experience. But at the same time, these paintings are a great deal more specific. They are linked to a long cultural tradition, but at the same time, they are in the Western sphere. That is, they are available to people like me. One of the things I think we have to understand why this is, to my mind, an important event is that it represents the widening out of Western culture. Tony Pontoni, the director of this gallery, will not mind my saying that 10 years ago he probably wouldn't have contemplated doing an exhibition of this kind. What we've had is a cultural explosion in recent years, and this London exhibition, for a specifically London audience, is evidence of that explosion. In that sense, I believe that we are all of us attending an extremely important and crucial event. Thank you.
Well done. Thank you, Edward. Enjoy yourselves.